As we gradually come to the end of this playlist on abstract algebra, we want to see modules and structure theorem, which are some kind of advanced advanced topics in abstract algebra. So let's go ahead and look at modules for starters. So modules are a generalization of vector spaces. Well, one thing I was considering whether I should do or not before was to teach linear algebra. My very first playlist on this channel was on matrices, which is a part of abstract of linear algebra. So, but with this, as I began to draw to a close on this abstract algebra thing, I feel that it would now be necessary for me to teach linear algebra. So you can watch out for a new playlist. Of course, I have 3 videos to go on this abstract algebra, except something else comes up. So, but I have this module structure theorem and maybe a kind of revisit to linear algebra. So maybe that will now be ushering me to linear algebra because normally linear algebra should come before abstract algebra. But it's okay, like I'll just go ahead and do the playlist on abstract algebra. So in case you're seeing vector spaces for the first time, so watch out for the playlist on linear algebra where I'm going to explain all of that as clearly as possible. So uh, modules are a generalization of vector spaces. And in a vector space, scalars come from a field. In a module, scalars come from a ring, which may not have multiplicative inverses. So because rings are more general than fields, modules can behave very differently from vector spaces. So it's more like vector spaces. So modules are vector spaces in advanced form, so to speak. Okay. So basic because rings are more general than fields, modules can behave very differently from vector spaces. A basis may not exist like it does in vector spaces. Dimension may not be defined like what you have in vector spaces, and submodules may be more complicated like that. So let's go ahead and talk about modules over rings. Modules over rings. Don't forget again, a ring is actually a set that is equipped with two binary operations, right? And then we later discovered also that fields are special forms of rings. So definition of a module now. So let R be a ring with identity and let M be an abelian group under addition. So we say that M, that abelian group, is an R module if there exists a scalar multiplication R cross M which mapped to M, written as, pick two elements from R and M, multiply them, and then you get Rm, such that for all R and S belonging to the ring R, and M and N belonging to the abelian group M, we have the following properties. First of all, we have R into M plus N. So it means equals Rm plus Rn. So it means that multiplication distributes over addition, both from the left and from the right, because we also have R plus S multiplied by M, giving us Rm plus Sm. Then you also have distributivity for multiplication, that is Rs multiplied by M being the same thing as R into R multiplied by Sm. Then you also have the identity over R for M, which is equal to M in that case. So that's modules over rings now. So let's talk about their relationship with vector spaces. Relationship with vector spaces. Every vector space over a field F is an F module. All right. So any vector space we have over a field F can be said to be an F module satisfying all these conditions we stated already. So thus we can say modules generalize vector spaces by replacing fields with rings. Modules generalize vector spaces by replacing fields with rings. So we have examples like Z modules. Of course, Z is one recurring thing that has been coming up since we started talking about abstract algebra. So for Z modules, let M be an abelian group. Define, of course, we know an abelian group obeys the concept of commutativity. So it then defines scalar multiplication by n times m, such that you have m in m plus m plus m in n places. So for n belonging to z, so then we say that m is a z module because of that. So every abelian group is a Z module, and every Z module is an abelian group. So anytime you have a Z module, it's an abelian group, and every abelian group is a Z module. And then we have Zn as a module. That's the here we begin to talk about modular arithmetic. So let n be equal to Zn. That's the set of all integers from 0 to n minus 1. That's what Zn represents. So define scalar multiplication by n dot k. So and that equals nk like that. Then we say that Zn is a Z module if this happens like that. So if you have a scalar multiplication defined this way, then we say that Zn is a Z module. So another example, verifying a module structure. So how do you verify the structure of a module? Imagine let R be Z, that is the set of all integers, and let M be Z6, that is the set of all integers from 0 to 5. Then define scalar multiplication by nk equals nk like this. So check the axioms. For identity, we have 1 times k gives this k. For associativity, we have mn dot k, that is mnk, and it is the same thing as m dot n dot k. So hence we say that Z6 is a Z module if we can verify all this to be true. Then we have submodules. So first of all, don't forget a module generalizes the idea of vector spaces as found in linear algebra. And like I said, I'm going to do a playlist on linear algebra, having not done that before. And I normally should come before abstract algebra. But because I had done matrices, I feel that that would suffice. But right now, I think it's necessary I do linear algebra again. So for submodule, now definition of a submodule, let M be an R module. So that is satisfying all the conditions stated before. So a subset N of M is called a submodule if 0 is in N. If N contains 0 and N is closed under addition, the idea of closure is that you pick any two elements from N and do a particular and you add them, and you find whatever answer you get is also in N. And the same thing happens for scalar multiplication. So if you pick any scalar number and you multiply uh, if you multiply by an element in N, you must also get a result inside of N. So in that case, you say that N is a submodule. And how do you test for a submodule? A non-empty set N belonging to M is a submodule if and only if for all X and Y that you pick from N, X minus Y is always inside of N. So if you pick any two numbers and you subtract, the answer you get is also in N like that. So for all R belonging to R and X belonging to N, R times X is also belonging to N. So that is the test for submodule. Now we go for another example. So talking about submodules of Z. So consider Z as a submodule. Every submodule of Z is of the form NZ, that is NK, such that K belongs to Z. Then these are exactly the ideals of Z now. Like we talked about ideal in previous videos. Then we have even integers. So for even integers, um, let n be equal to 2z. Since 2z is closed under subtraction and scalar multiplication, it is a submodule of z. So of course, we know since 2z is closed under subtraction, so if you subtract any two even integers, you get another even integer, So whether positive or negative, it doesn't matter. So it is a submodule of z automatically. Then another one, you have generated submodules. So let S be a subset of M. The submodule generated by S is the generated set S, such that which is a collection of the summation of Ri, Si, where Ri belongs to R and Si belongs to S, like that. So an example would be this: let M be Z squared. That's the like if you like vector space, I mean the cross product of the of two integer sets like that. So the example, let M be equal to Z squared and let S be 2 comma 4 like this. That's 2 from the set, first set of integers and 4 from the other one, since we're talking about Z squared, right? So it's more like Cartesian products like that. Then we say that the generator for S will just be n of 2 comma 4. So any n at all from Z for 2 comma 4. So then you can have, if you pick any number at all, then it just goes on like that. So in this case, we say this is a proper submodule of Z squared. Okay. Then we have quotient modules now. Quotient modules. Okay. So for quotient modules, the definition of quotient module. So let M be an R module and let N be a submodule of M. So define an equivalence relation on M by M related to m prime if and only if m minus m prime also belongs to n. So the quotient module m slash n is now this collection of all m plus n such that m belongs to n, right? So that's what the quotient module is. M slash n is a collection of m plus n such that m belongs to the submodule m. So operations in the quotient module now, we have this that for addition, we have m plus n plus m prime plus n is the same thing as m plus n prime plus n itself. And for scalar multiplication, we have r into m plus n being the same thing as r times m plus n, like this, because r times n automatically is going to be, well, every rn is going to be found in n. So that's why it ends up being just n like this for quotient module. Then a very good example is z slash nz. So let m be z and let n be nz. So then z slash nz will just be 0 plus 1, 1 plus, 0 plus n, 1 plus n, all the way to n minus 1 plus n. So this is simply a z module like that. So another example will be this now, that you have z squared slash the generator of 1 comma 1. So let n be 1 comma 1 in this case. Now that generated 1 comma 1. So you can say AB, which relates to CD. AB relates to CD. That's we saw that just now. Equivalence, yeah. AB is related to CD if and only if A minus C comma B minus D is the same thing as K times 1, 1 for some K belonging to Z. So this implies that AB is equal to CD. Hence, Z squared slash 1 comma 1 is isomorphic to Z itself. Then we have canonical projection. So define the map. So if you define the map pi, which maps M to the quotient, what's that thing called now? We saw it just now. Quotient modules, yeah? Quotient modules. So define define the map pi, which maps M to the quotient module M over M slash N by pi M, which is M plus N. Then the map pi, this map is a subjective module homomorphism. And then the kernel of pi will automatically just be the whole N like that. Then you have first isomorphism theorem for modules now. So let F map big M to M cap M I've forgotten what I used to call this. M prime, yeah, put it that way. Let F map M to M prime be a module homomorphism. Then we say that M slash the kernel of F is isomorphic to the image of F. And then we have isomorphism theorem itself, an example for that. So let F map Z to Z6 be defined by F of N, which is this N like this. Then the kernel of F is 6Z, and the image of F is Z6. Kernel is 6Z and image is Z6. We talked about this whole kernel image thing in the previous video. You want to check that out. Thus, we see that Z slash 6Z is isomorphic to Z6. So we have practice problems for consideration. So 10 of them. Let me see if I can fit all, or I do it in fives. Okay, I think I have to do it in fives now. Okay, so let M be equal to Z considered as a Z module. Let list all submodules of M. Okay, then for each submodule N, describe the quotient module M slash N. Let M be Z it. So you want to try all this out as much as you can. Then follow the previous examples in the notes. So these are from 6 to 10 again, or even from 5 to 10. So try your hands on this and let's see how it goes. Now this symbol here may be looking new to you, but don't worry. I think in the next video, in the one after that, I'm going to introduce the concept of this, like addition over the set or something like that. Let's see what that is when we get there. Okay, so thank you so much for listening to this very interesting video on modules, which are generalizations of vector spaces, right? And we've seen other things about them, submodules, quotient modules, and all of that, right? Let me know how helpful this is for you. And if there's something else you'd like me to talk about, feel free to let me know. If you have subscribed already, I must thank you very much for doing that. And if you haven't subscribed, what are you waiting for? Please go ahead and subscribe and hit the notification bell so you can always get alerted each time a new video is released. Having done that, you can also become a member of this channel by clicking on join. I mean, just go, okay, I guess I want to use, let me use a different account so you can see it properly. So just um, go to YouTube on your channel, I mean on your computer, right? And then go to my channel or just search for my name. It manages you understand. It takes you straight there. Oh, okay, this is not what I want, what I'm talking about. No, cancel. Yeah. So go to my channel. You can just search for it on YouTube. And then so here you see join. So if you see join right here, you see there's bronze access, there's silver access, there's gold access, and then you can join anyone that suits you, and they all have special privileges. So at the highest level, we can have one-on-one consultation. So feel free to avail yourself of that. Anyone that suits you, feel free to go for it. Ultimately, don't forget to comment, like, and share so that more people can have access to this great content I have going on here. Till I come your way again, keep doing maths right. Bye.